The Time Traveler's Echo. Dr. John Thompson was a brilliant physicist who had been working tirelessly for years on unlocking the secret of time travel. After countless trials and errors, he had finally cracked the code and had a daring plan to test his theory. As he stood in front of the time machine, he couldn't help but feel a mix of nervousness and excitement. This was it, the moment he had been waiting for his entire life. The lab was dimly lit, the hum of computers and the soft glow of screens casting eerie shadows on the walls. John took a deep breath and glanced at the complex array of equipment surrounding him. He had spent his career defying the skeptics, and now he was on the brink of proving them all wrong. His assistant, Sarah, entered the room, her face reflecting the same mix of anticipation and anxiety. "Are you sure about this, John? This is uncharted territory. We don't know what could happen." John nodded, his determination unwavering. "I have to do this, Sarah. We've come too far to turn back now. Besides, I've taken every precaution. The calculations are precise, and the machine is stable." Sarah handed him a small device, the time travel control unit, which he attached to his wrist. "If anything goes wrong, use this to return immediately. Promise me you'll be careful." "I promise," John said, giving her a reassuring smile. As Dr. John Thompson prepared to travel back in time, he realized that he could hear voices whispering in the background, like distant whispers in the wind. He stopped and cocked his head to the side to listen more closely, but the voices faded away. Confused, he checked the machine's readings and all the data seemed to be in order. He shrugged it off as a hallucination due to the excitement and resumed his preparations. As Dr. John Thompson continued to listen to the whispers, he could make out indistinct sounds and voices, like people speaking in hushed tones. He tried to focus on what they were saying, but it was like trying to decipher a language he didn't understand. He shook his head and tried to dismiss the strange occurrence, attributing it to a possible glitch in the technology. "Maybe I'm just tired," he muttered to himself, wiping a bead of sweat from his forehead. However, the whispers persisted, growing louder and more insistent in his ears, sending a chill down his spine. As the whispers grew louder and more forceful, Dr. John Thompson could barely concentrate on his preparations. They were no longer just a background noise, but a clear and distinct clamor in his head. The voices seemed to be calling out to him, beckoning him to listen to them. He strained to catch some of the words, but they were still unintelligible. They sounded ancient, like they were speaking a long-forgotten language. He couldn't shake the feeling that the voices had a deep and sinister meaning, but he didn't know what it was or how to decipher them. With a final check of the machine settings, John stepped into the sleek, metallic chamber. The doors closed with a soft hiss, and the room was filled with a low, vibrating hum. John pressed a series of buttons on the control unit, setting his destination, August 5, 1924. He had chosen this date for a specific reason, one that was deeply personal. As the countdown began, John closed his eyes and took a deep breath. The machine whirred to life, and within moments, he felt a sensation unlike anything he had ever experienced. It was as if he were being pulled apart and reassembled at the same time. The sensation was disorienting, but he remained focused on his goal. When the sensation finally subsided, John opened his eyes to find himself standing in a bustling city street. The sounds of horses' hooves clattering on cobblestones, the chatter of people, and the distant hum of early automobiles filled the air. He had made it. He was in the past. John marveled at his surroundings, taking in the sights and sounds of a world long gone. He quickly checked his watch, realizing he had only a few hours to accomplish his mission before the energy in his control unit depleted. He made his way through the crowded streets, heading towards a small, unassuming house at the edge of the city. As he approached the house, John's heart raced. This was where his great-grandfather, Robert Thompson, had lived. John had heard stories about Robert, a man who had been ahead of his time, an inventor and dreamer just like him. But the most important reason for his visit was a diary, said to contain notes and ideas that could further his research. John knocked on the door, and after a few moments, an elderly woman answered. She looked at him with a mix of curiosity and suspicion. "Yes? Can I help you?" "Hello, My name is John Thompson. I'm a distant relative of Robert Thompson. I was hoping to learn more about his work and perhaps see some of his notes. The woman's eyes softened. Ah, Robert was my father. Come in, please. John entered the house, feeling a sense of nostalgia for a time he had never known. The woman, who introduced herself as Mary, led him to a small study filled with books, papers, and various contraptions. John's eyes immediately fell upon a worn, leather-bound diary on the desk. That was his diary, Mary said. He was always jotting down ideas and inventions. It's all yours if you'd like to take a look. John carefully picked up the diary and began to flip through the pages. The handwriting was neat and precise, filled with sketches, equations, and notes. As he read, he realized that many of Robert's ideas were remarkably advanced for his time. There were even concepts that mirrored some of John's own work. Excitedly, John took out his notebook and began to transcribe the most important entries. Time flew by as he absorbed the knowledge contained within the diary. But he knew he couldn't stay much longer. The control unit on his wrist beeped, signaling that his time was almost up. Reluctantly, John closed the diary and handed it back to Mary. Thank you so much for letting me see this. It's been incredibly valuable. Mary smiled warmly. I'm glad it could help. Robert would have been thrilled to know his work lived on. With a final nod, John stepped outside and activated the control unit. The familiar sensation of time travel enveloped him once more, and within moments, he found himself back in his lab. Sarah was waiting for him, her face a mixture of relief and concern. You're back. How was it? She asked. John grinned, holding up his notebook. It was incredible, Sarah. I found exactly what I was looking for. My great-grandfather's notes, they're going to revolutionize our research. Sarah's eyes widened with excitement. That's amazing, John. But you have to tell me everything. John spent the next few hours recounting his journey, the sights and sounds of the past, and the invaluable knowledge he had gained. Together, they pored over the notes, integrating Robert's ideas with their own research. As the night wore on, John couldn't help but feel a profound sense of accomplishment. He had not only proven that time travel was possible but had also bridged the gap between past and present in a way he had never imagined. The possibilities were endless, and he knew that this was only the beginning of their journey. With Sarah by his side and his great-grandfather's legacy guiding him, John was ready to take on whatever challenges lay ahead. The future was theirs to shape, one discovery at a time.